Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I am Asuman Aşık, and maybe I can talk about myself a bit before getting started. I'm a professor at the Department of English Language Teaching at Gazi University, and it is located in Ankara, Turkey. And in recent years, I am personally interested in mindfulness and yoga. And of course, when I'm personally interested in, luckily, I met Zeynep, and then we started the journey together to integrate mindfulness in English language classrooms. As we benefited from mindfulness in our daily life, why not benefiting it in our classrooms? So we wanted to share our experience with this journey together with Zeynep. And I am really thankful and grateful to this team, that the project team, the Compassionate and Mindful ELT project team. Thank you so much for inviting us, and we are very happy to be part of this project as well. So our title is Breathe, Speak, Thrive, Mindfulness for EFL Anxiety. And let me introduce the content of our webinar. We're going to start with foreign language anxiety to discuss what kind of, anxiety triggers we might have in our classrooms. And I'm going to talk about a bit about how mindfulness is integrated in other disciplines and then in education. And then we're going to discuss the interconnection between mindfulness and second language acquisition, how we can benefit from mindfulness in foreign language settings. And then Zeynep will go on with really nice sample activities and lesson plans. And maybe we will have an activity together towards the end of this webinar. So why not to join? Why not to enjoy mindfulness together in this webinar? Um, let's kick off today's journey by diving into a topic many of us can relate to: foreign language learning anxiety. And the definition is like it is really highly related to the feelings of tension, apprehension, nervousness associated with second language learning. I'm sure that here we have lots of contexts like ESL and EFL context, and I'm sure in our language classrooms as English teachers, our students are struggling with this anxiety. So our students are not alone. We are not alone. And Horowitz and colleagues define this anxiety as a special form of anxiety that arises specifically in language learning settings. So it is not just shyness, but it's a real psychological barrier. And together we will unpack how it affects learners and why it deserves our attention in this session. When we have to explore the backbone of this anxiety, we can see Krashen's hypothesis like affective filter hypothesis or processing model by McIntyre and Gardner's. But I want you to think that, imagine that anxiety like a wall. So when it is up, the wall is up, it blocks all the good stuff coming in. So without reducing that wall, no amount of teaching can fully reach the learner. And that's why we need to lower that anxiety wall in our language classrooms to enhance language learning environment. So I want to ask you a question. Let's brainstorm together. You can write to the chat box. Please feel free to join. What classroom activities do you think that trigger the most anxiety in your English classrooms? Speaking, right? Thank you for your answers. Ebrar, Annabella, Bogi, reading out loud. Susanna, thank you. Yes, to speak in front of the class, right? Listening, speaking, new vocabulary, pronunciation, writing. So it's not limited to speaking. We can see lots of varieties of anxiety type. Isabel speaking production, especially production, right? Maybe receptive skills can be a bit easier, but productive skills in group classes, yes. I think we can say that these are very common. We also observe these anxiety types in Turkey as well. Speaking, reading, a variety of language skills, right? Thank you for your answers, but I can see that there's a similarity between, each language skill and mostly speaking maybe. So, how can we overcome these anxieties, or should we overcome? Maybe this is also another question mark. But let's imagine that if there was a way to lower that anxiety wall that you described, like speaking anxiety, listening, for example, sometimes reading and sometimes writing anxiety. Actually, to lower this anxiety wall, we have a strategy. That's where mindfulness comes in. Originally, it was born from Buddhist philosophy, as most of you are familiar, I'm sure, and introduced to healthcare by John Kabat-Zinn. So, mindfulness invites us to be present, curious, and kind to ourselves. The description, I think, says it all. Paying attention in a particular way, to be on purpose, in the present moment. And I think one of the most key words of mindfulness is to be non-judgmental. And when we have a look at the application of mindfulness across fields, we can see it works very well in other disciplines as well, such as neuroscience, for example, backs it up. And studies show that mindfulness physically changes the brain. It strengthens areas tied to attention and shrinks the regions responsible for fear and anxiety. So I think this is amazing, right? And in psychology and health, we have seen mindfulness-based interventions, which are really game changers, and they have helped people coping with anxiety, depression, and trauma. So imagine the possibilities if we channel these benefits to our classrooms. And mindfulness also is not used in health or education or in other disciplines. We can see that top CEOs, military leaders, even negotiators in conflict zones use mindfulness to stay calm under pressure. So if it works there in these fields, why not? It has the potential. It can certainly work in language education. When we find the interconnection between mindfulness and education, why not to bring mindfulness into education? Simply put, we can say that today's students are stressed out, right? Teachers also are stressed out, not only the students. There are exams, social media, future anxiety. There's a lot to take. Mindfulness gives us or students tools to handle life, not only just school. And studies also show that students who practice mindfulness are not only calmer, but they also perform better academically. They are more empathetic, less reactive, and better able to handle setbacks. So we can say that these are life skills, not only for school environment, right? Because in life, we have always some kind of challenges, struggles. Why not to have these skills in language classrooms and maybe transfer and navigate these skills in our daily life and also in our students' life? Of course, it is not only related to students, but for teacher well-being, we also need mindfulness practices because teaching is emotional labor. So mindfulness can help us to stay patient, reflective, energized. Because when teachers thrive, students also thrive because our emotional well-being is very reflective in our language classrooms. And maybe you can say that how the practices so far are done in language classrooms. Mindfulness-based cognitive therapies are used as for implementation models. Or there are some particular mindfulness-based practices for education, such as Inner Explorer, Mind Up, and Calm Classroom. You can also search for more then. Towards the end, Zeynep will provide you some useful resources as well to explore more. But of course, there can be some challenges about the implementation of mindfulness. Nothing is perfect and nothing is easy. So lack of training, cultural differences, busy schedules as teachers, these can be real challenges. But with this session, we hope to overcome some of these challenges together, and the potential benefits make it worth trying. So when we have a look at the intersection between mindfulness and second language acquisition theories, we can see that attention is highly critical in SLA, because maybe you can remember the noticing hypothesis of Schmitz. So mindfulness supports sustained and focused attention. And lowering anxiety through mindfulness practices, as Kreshn also suggested before, related to an affective filter, we can say that mindfulness can reduce emotional interference in learning. And we can use some practical mindfulness strategies in our classrooms, such as grounding exercises, maybe before oral production, maybe some kind of breath work during tests, or journaling for metacognitive reflection. So we can find possible ways to link the mindfulness practices with language activities. When we have started this journey, mindfulness journey in EFL classroom with Zeynep, we have discussed a lot how we can implement mindfulness with, for example, skill-based practices. It is not only a separate mindfulness strategy, but why not to use mindfulness as the context in our language classrooms? So we will show some examples later. I can give some examples, like maybe starting a speaking exercise with 3 deep breaths. You have mentioned that speaking anxiety is the most common one. It is the same in Turkey as well. And maybe peer pressure, like to be shy or afraid of making mistakes while speaking. Maybe we can encourage them to grounding exercises, or asking students to journal about their emotions just after a tough activity. For example, writing anxiety. After a difficult writing activity, why not to write about it? Why not to talk about it? So these simple acts can make a world of difference in our classrooms. Mindfulness also empowers learners, because when we understand our emotions, our body awareness, we can also navigate, our students can also navigate challenges better and build real confidence. Because in language learning and production, mindset is everything. And productive skills especially require some kind of confidence, anxiety-free practices. How about some samples for foreign language settings? So language classrooms can feel like emotional minefields, because there are fear of mistakes, peer judgment, performance anxiety. But mindfulness can create a protective bubble of calm and acceptance of making mistakes, right? Because while we're learning our mother tongue, we are also making mistakes. Why not to do it in another language? These are some suggestions. For example, before tasks, we can do some body scans. By the way, they can be done in your own language or in English. It's up to the level of your students. Because some, for example, very simple body scan activities can also work with even lower levels, we can say. Or some breathing activities for focus. Or during tasks, we can ask and encourage them some kind of mindful speaking, listening activities, slowing down the speech. Because especially when we want to talk, we believe that we have to talk very fast, but actually slowing down, just noticing, for example, eye contact, how I feel during the talk, is really important in productive skills. And after tasks, maybe we can encourage our students for reflective writing or, as you are maybe familiar, gratitude journaling about maybe the school or life. It doesn't have to be related to English class, right? Or some kind of 5-minute mindfulness starters. We don't have to allocate a huge amount of time in our language classrooms for mindfulness. We can just start the day with a 5-minute starter, mindful starter, maybe, or some task based activities with mindful reflection, maybe mindful storytelling. So just integrating bits and little by little into every activity. And also, as teachers, our presence as a model of calm. Because if we are in rush in classrooms, students might feel also more anxious, right? Our tone of voice, our feeling calm, or emotional well-being is also contagious in our classrooms. Or some self-regulation activities during challenging classroom moments. So far, thank you so much for listening and paying attention. From now on, Zeynep, my dear colleague, will go on with some nice sample activities to use to integrate mindfulness in language classrooms. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are joining us. Thank you, Professor Asuman, for laying such a thoughtful foundation. Now I'd like to take you into the classroom and share some practical examples of how mindfulness can be meaningfully integrated into our foreign language or second language lessons. It's not just to support academic goals, but also to nourish our students' emotional well-being. So let's start with my first example, a lesson activity. It starts with a gentle yet powerful combination, gratitude and the five senses. So the research shows us that gratitude isn't just a pleasant feeling, it also can support health, happiness, and wisdom in ourselves and our communities. So this lesson first start with the gratitude term. It is defined and made sure that it is clear for the students. Then we continue with five senses activity, which I guess most of you are familiar with. This activity is quite popular in mindfulness literature since it's practical due to its concrete dimension. It might be difficult to work with emotions and thoughts because they're abstract and might be challenging to be aware of them truly. However, senses are always here, we use them all the time, and noticing sensational things is another great way to ground and be in the present moment. And it also helps us synchronize the body and the mind. So we align the body and mind through sensational activities. For this reason, in many activities or lessons, practitioners or teachers prefer to start with sensory activities to make a call to the wandering mind, because this is one of the common problems in our classrooms. The students are in the classroom physically, they are sitting on their desks, no problem, but we're not quite sure about where their minds are. Are they wandering in the past, in the future, or wandering somewhere else? So after this five senses activity, we can lead our students to appreciate all these skills in their daily lives. Because we use them all the time, we might sometimes cannot see how wonderful skills they are. To make this lesson even more memorable, we can ask our students to complete a gratitude journal for a week. So every day they write something, they write about something they are thankful, and at the end of the week they write a reflection paragraph describing their experience. If students like the idea, they may even continue writing their gratitude journal for the following months or even for the following year. Another option here might be a museum assignment. For example, in Istanbul, there is a museum called Dialogue in the Dark, and this museum visitors are guided by blind guides in complete darkness. So you cannot see anything when you enter into this museum. In this museum, the visitors get the chance to experience daily environments from a completely new perspective. So you enjoy a walk in the park, take the tram, visit a cafe in a specially designed darkened rooms. So this experience might offer visitors an opportunity to experience an unknown place. Students later can be asked to write a reflection paper describing their experiences. And another activity that makes mindfulness concrete, tangible is mindful eating. Here we ask our students to slow down and reflect on something behind a simple bite of food, like a piece of bread or chocolate. By reflecting on this journey of a single food item from seed to plate, we aim to deepen our appreciation for all resources which are woven into the very essence of that food and provided the foundation for its existence and our own. As for the language focus in this lesson, we can cover some language structures such as passive voice or sequencing language when we are talking about the journey of the food. And after discussing about the journey of the food from seed to plate, a mindful eating exercise might be integrated here, which is something, again, I guess you are all familiar with. And in most of the mindful eating exercises, a piece of dried fruit like raisin is used, and students or the participants are asked to experience the action of eating in a mindful way. So you might integrate such an activity after having a skill-based lesson and discussing about the journey of the food, depending on your student's age level, age group, language proficiency, and background. Yeah, such as the allergy issue. Yeah, some students might be allergic to some type of food. Next, you can finalize your lesson with one of or a combination of the creative options listed here, such as writing a short story from the perspective of a grain of rice, or writing about a specific food or meal, which can be matched with a special event or celebration and its role in that event, so that you can even integrate a cultural element into your lesson by bridging mindful eating and food culture relationship. And the next activity is one of my favorites. It's a short parable, a short story. I call this story as The Princess, the Prophecy, and the Present Moment. For this lesson, you can use a simplified version of this story. For the ones who are not familiar with the story, I'll summarize it very shortly. In this story, we have a princess who is born under a dark prophecy, which says that she will die from a snake bite on her 18th birthday. And to protect her daughter, of course, the king builds a remote tower and isolates her from the world. Despite all the precautions the king has, on her 18th birthday, a small and unexpected event leads to the prophecy coming true, and unfortunately, they lose the princess. So, what I love is how we can use. What I love about this story is that we can use it to discuss anxiety and fear of future without naming it directly. We're just using a story and some metaphors, but somehow we are referring to anxiety and the fear of future, that something we try to deal with in our classrooms with our students. So in that story, the characters try to control the future. The princess hides away, but anxiety doesn't dissolve in isolation. it actually grows louder. So they prefer not to say it. They prefer to escape from it, but somehow they cannot. Uh, However, meantime, they miss the present moment in which they might have enjoyed their time together. So then comes the language focus. As you can see, in such a lesson, you can integrate lots of expressions and language structures you might want to cover, such as tenses, narrative tenses, especially because we are using storytelling technique here. Linking words, again, related to narration and storytelling here, or using conditionals by talking about hypothetical situations like changing the ending. And it's one of the creative options listed here. So after you cover the story with your students and focused on the expressions or the structures you want to, then you can integrate such a creative part as an in-class activity or after-class activity. So the first alternative might be asking students to rewrite the ending, changing the ending, so that princess lives a mindful life rather than escaping from her destiny, let's say. Another alternative, the second alternative, might be writing an inner monologue in that the princess thoughts the night before her 18th birthday, because she lived all her life with that fear, with that anxiety that she would be killed by a snake bite on her 18th birthday. So it must be a really hard night for her. And the other alternative might be asking students to write hypothetical statements or statements about this story using conditionals. Like if her father hadn't locked her away, she might have done what? Your students, I'm sure that your students might complete these sentences very well with their great creativity. And the next activity is actually blending mindfulness with intercultural competence using current media. So, in English, there is a proverb, a saying that when life gives you lemon, make lemonade. And recently, a TV series has been released called When Life Gives You Tangerines. So when I first saw the series title, When Life Gives You Tangerines, I smiled. I immediately remembered that proverb, that saying with lemons, and I thought that it's such a gentle twist on the classic lemons to lemonade phrase. In this lesson, for example, we can compare the English proverb with lemon version, and the English series title, When Life Gives You Tangerines, of the original Korean series. So you can discuss with your students the emotional tone difference between lemons and tangerines, because in both cases, the message is similar. The message is that there is both sweet and sour moments in life, but we should always try to find a way to deal with them. But in lemon example, the lemon metaphor here might seem to encourage more like optimism and proactive problem solving, doing something actively, yeah, when you come across with a difficulty in your life. But on the other hand, tangerines type of fruit symbolizing a sweeter and more positive feelings like warmth, comfort, and family in many Asian cultures, and as in Korean culture example. The tangerine metaphor here might suggest something gentler, accepting approach, acknowledging what you really have, referring to a softer resilience, possibly more about embracing what it is, then transforming it, then trying to change it, or then fighting with it. So, using these examples, you may later would like to teach your students some idioms and proverbs or expressions related to resilience and emotion across cultures. Here you can see two examples from English and Japanese. Yeah, in English, every cloth has a silver lining, and you see a Japanese one, fall 7 times, stand up 8. Yeah, as I said, the ultimate purpose, the message is quite similar, but you can focus on how they are represented, how they are symbolized in different languages and different cultures. And so let's move on to our last activity. This is actually an activity I would like to practice together with you. The main theme of this activity is loving kindness, or in other words, metta. You can also come across this term as well. So for this activity, I created two scenarios, two situations, and I'll ask you to write a response to each scenario. While writing your responses, please try to be honest as much as possible and write what comes to your mind. For this activity, I created an online collaborate board so that we can see our answers on one screen and discuss about them more easily. So for a moment, I'll stop sharing and share the link with you for the collaborate board. If you give me a moment. So I copied the link and will share it with you in a second in the chat box. Okay, here is the link. Please go to that link, join the activity. Although you enter your names while joining the activity, your names will be anonymous, hidden on the screen. And let's start with the first scenario. Let me share my screen one more time. Okay, the first scenario is about yourself. So in that scenario, you are someone who has been looking for a job for almost a year, which is a long period for most people. You had a job interview yesterday, but unfortunately, you couldn't get the job. What would you tell yourself? Okay, we have answers coming. I'm not good enough. It wasn't for me. You're going to get it next time. What else can I do? Maybe this job wasn't for you. There'll be another opportunity tomorrow. It's their loss. Something better awaits me. Maybe next time. It wasn't for me. Maybe next time you'll find a better opportunity. I have to work hard. Why did I work hard before? Why didn't I guess? Blaming. Keep moving forward. Don't look back. Go, go. Keep searching. Next time, better things are ahead. There'll be a better job. I didn't want that job anyway, but I don't think I have what it takes. I'm not enough. Next time. Okay, so from the answers, I think we can say that we have some common themes like accepting what the situation is or blaming ourselves with saying such things like I'm not enough, I wasn't ready for it, etc. Or being hopeful for the future, maybe next time something better awaits for me. I'll improve myself, making plans related to future, yeah, for future opportunities. Okay, so thank you so much for your kind and sincere answers here. I have one more scenario next. The scenario is the same, but the character, the person, the agent is different. This time, your best friend has been looking for a job almost a year. He or she had a job interview, but unfortunately, she couldn't or he couldn't get the job. What would you tell your friend? Don't worry, you'll get next time. It's their loss. You'll get even better one. It wasn't for you. Keep trying. Something better is around. Maybe it wasn't for you. A better opportunity. Keep looking. You'll get a great job. Their loss. Something better will come along. Don't worry. Keep trying. Don't give up. Every cloud has a silver lining. You're going to get it next time. Don't give up. You're still working on your passion. Don't give up. You'll get it next time. You're amazing. Okay, so if I haven't missed anything, I all the comments are positive, right? So you're backing up, you're supporting your friend and ensuring that something better opportunities will find your friend very soon or in the future. Okay, so the instance, I guess you get the idea, right? When we compare, when we communicate with ourselves or with someone else, especially someone we like, someone we care, we tend to be kinder, we tend to be more supportive. But in the first scenario, I remember some comments blaming themselves. But in the second scenario, I haven't seen any comment blaming or using negative language for the friend scenario. Okay, thank you so much one more time for sharing your answers with us and making this lesson even more real, yeah, and memorable. So I want to go back to my PowerPoint in a moment. Okay. So I did this activity, a similar one with my students. In that activity, I used the exam scenario because, exams are one of the most common themes or topics which create anxiety in students. And their answers were similar like yours. When they come to evaluate themselves, their exam performance, they tend to use harsher language for themselves. But when they talk to their friends, they are more supportive and using more positive language. So in such a lesson, we can direct the attention to the people we interact with on a typical day, for example, and we can ask students to observe and reflect on the change their style or their way of talking or the use of language they use according to the person they communicate, they interact. So you can, I added some codes here, which I love and love to share with my students. Especially, can you check the first one? You'll never speak to anyone more than yourself in your head. So be kind to yourself. And if you be kind to yourself enough, you can be happy enough to be kind to the world. So, of course, we need to be kind, helpful, and caring for other people, as you see in this dictionary definition, but we should also start this kindness from ourselves, then maybe towards outward. So before I conclude, I would like to share some useful resources with you. I guess you are familiar with most of them. So I just shared a few ideas from many. What's beautiful is that mindfulness doesn't require extra teaching time. It can gently woven into what we already do, like lesson warm-ups, storytelling, writing tasks, and even grammar, as you have seen in some of these examples I shared with you. And it can make a world of difference for anxious learners trying to find their voice in a second or foreign language. So these are the resources, yeah, I would like to share with you. What is great is that there is now a growing body of materials specifically designed for educators, not just for general mindfulness. And if you're interested in formal training, you can check the website of International Mindfulness Teacher Association, where you can see the list of accredited institutions for mindfulness teacher training. And if you're interested in MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program content, you can visit the Palau's website, Palau's Mindfulness website. It offers free resources, but it doesn't provide a certificate to teach mindfulness to others. If you would like to teach mindfulness, you should first complete a teacher training course, as you may guess. Yeah, so to close, I'd like to return to a line from John Kabat-Zinn, the prominent researcher in mindfulness literature. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So in our classrooms, anxiety is part of the ocean. It comes and goes. We cannot always stop it. There is anxiety. We should first acknowledge it, right? We cannot get rid of it. It's one of the basics of being human. But we can teach our students and ourselves how to ride it with more balance, patience, and even kindness. I hope today gave you a glimpse of how mindfulness can be woven into language teaching in small and meaningful ways. Thank you so much for being present and for bringing your whole self to this session. You can see our references at the end of our presentation. Thank you so much one more time for being here. And I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions if we have time. I don't know. But thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the comments. And if you have any questions or contributions, please feel free to write or ask.
Yeah, thank you so much for your beautiful, nice comments.
Yeah, Bogi, over to you.
Yes. So thank you a lot for being here. Thank you for the great session. It was very, very informative, and it was really a great activity that you came up with. And I think you did give me some food for thought, blaming myself but cheering up my friend. Probably that's not the way to go. So it was very lovely and insightful. Thank you for all the lovely comments.
I guess we have a question in the chat box.
Yes, that's what I'm reading.
More about museum assignment. Actually, I don't quite understand what you mean about the assignment or the museum itself. I thought it would be a great reflective assignment. The assignment, okay. So after you work on the senses, how great abilities they are in our daily lives, you may even want to further this activity by leading students or directing them into such an interesting museum, because it's not a usual museum, because in usual museums we see and sense the things we can see in a museum, but in this museum actually you lose one of your five senses. You cannot see anything. So for most people it is something interesting, because for someone who can see, it's very normal, something usual, something they have had all the time. But that museum activity can be an interesting one and may help students gain another or look from another perspective, a new perspective. And at the end of this activity, you may ask your students to write a reflective paper about their experience, or maybe have make them have a presentation, an oral presentation in the classroom about their experience in it can be an individual work, a pair work, or a group work. Yeah, it depends on how you want to shape your lesson.
There's a question to me, Bogi. I can answer that. How can I self-regulate to improve my classroom management? I think as the teachers, first of all, we need to acknowledge first why and how I feel during a crisis or during there's a problem, for example, in classroom management. Because I'm sure when we are dealing with the problems in the classrooms, there are certain patterns that we are following as teachers, right? In this case, I behave like this. In this case, I may shout. In this case, I might react. So, first of all, maybe take a step back. Why do I feel this way? Why am I angry now? Maybe to find the point that we have to manage the classroom. Because, of course, there are unique cases. There is no solution that can fit for all problems. But first of all, maybe we have to understand or change the pattern because while we are experiencing in teaching, we are also building up some patterns, right? Maybe we can change some behaviors with ourselves first, and maybe it can also lead some changes in the classroom as well. Before reacting, before doing something as the pattern, maybe we have to acknowledge why I feel this way, for example, how I can cope with this classroom management problem. So the questions or the answers will also change according to your teacher identity and also your personal identity. This is also happening in real life, right? We sometimes build some routines, some actions, and we always do the same actions, always do the same reactions, maybe. So changing the habit, breaking the habit can help us to understand, to feel more, and maybe to manage our classrooms easily. This is just a suggestion. Thank you. That was a nice
Thank
question.
you. Yes, it was indeed a very nice question. I think it's always very important to ask ourselves, for example, why a given student kind of bugs us, I feel. I think we have great conversations about this in the language school where I work in, and it's usually a me problem, not a them problem, right? I'm stalling a bit to give you a minute to ask other questions. If there is anything else, sitting down and chatting with our teammates and share our concerns and experiences may help. Yes, definitely. I think teachers and communities of teachers can help a lot. We have different experiences and we can always have different insights of the same problem.
Such as the loving kindness practice that Zeynep did, right? To give some advices in a more kinder, and also loving kinder, maybe way.
Exactly. So I try so hard to be mindful, but this year I have an extremely lively group of 4-year-olds, and every day they don't fail to surprise me. Yes.
Yeah, you need to how to surf then, right? You cannot stop the waves of 4-year-olds. Lucy, yes.
Yes, exactly. Very nice observations. Great comments, teaching 4-year-olds. Okay, great. So I would like to call your attention to the fact that we will have one more webinar this semester, and then we are going to restart it again in September. So please stay tuned and wait for our calls, our letters every month, because we will keep you updated. And thank you a lot for being here today. Again, so many of you. I really hope, and actually I am sure that you did get some great ideas, and we had an amazing session today. Thank you again, Asuman and Zeynep, for being here and sharing all your ideas with us. And then if there are no more questions, I think we can call it a day or a morning, wherever we are, and then wish you a very good weekend and hope to see you another time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.